everything stated in this video is my opinion and my opinion only. And just like everything else in these cases we discuss here on this channel, everything is alleged. Hey guys, can y'all hear me okay? Hey, hi, hello. How are you guys doing? Long time no see. Hello, Marie. Hey, Kate. Hey, Jackie. Joanna, did you hear about Kaylee, Maddie, Dylan, and Bethany hanging out in Kaylee's room at about 2 a.m.? Dylan said they were thinking about going to get food, and that's why she messaged the driver. Did that come out in a document? Is it in this one that we're going to read? I left after work and had planned to go live about something completely different. I mean, it was going to be Idaho related, but it was going to be something completely different. Came back from the store, finished dinner, sat down, and then we had this and a few other orders. And I already had planned to do these in chronological order. But this one's important. So we're going to just go ahead and do it out of order, because why not? We do a lot of things out of order here. So maybe we'll get to that one. I don't know if it's in this document or if it's in one of the other ones, but that actually makes sense to me. Get somebody that you trust to get your food that's already driving around, or call DoorDash. But then we also have to remember that the DoorDash order came from Ethan's account. So I don't know. I have no idea. You get blocked from it. You have to use a VPN, I think. Mark said DP order is not surprising. Dory, hello, 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 Big Plants, Little City. Hello, Julie. Hello, Mr. Kevin. Hello, Kiki Ray. Hi, Meg. Jitsu. Hey, Suze. Misbehaving. I've got something to say. Listening while cleaning. I need to do some of that. Looking forward to this info. Hey, got something to say. Hey, Danny. Ursula. Bella. Yeah, yeah, we didn't go live last week. And then we didn't do a lot of stuff over this weekend. Yeah, we're going to try to get through all of it. It's 25 pages, but some of it is stuff that we've already seen. I just want to skim through it and see if there's any changes. Like, we're going to read everything regarding what the judge wrote in his order. Probably find some little nuggies, but I'm really not trusting this judge. Like, he's just coming out and like kind of saying stuff. Sometimes that's already like not a proven fact, or that hasn't been brought up at all. I don't know. He just does things. Yeah. Hello, Beauty for Ashes. How you doing? Hey, Janet. Hey, Miller Time. How you doing? Janet UK. Hey, Kelly. Hey, Gina. You deleted something? Oh. Well, hello, everybody. Okay, this is a long. I'm guessing you've read it. Hey, Noodles. Hey, LR. Hey, Silo. I did. Very relaxing. I bought some power tools, which I needed. So it's going to be a fun weekend with my new 16-foot pole mini chainsaw. Got some branches with. That's going to be fun. Moving. There's been some new stuff. And look, like I said, I'm behind too. My birthday was Friday. It was also Easter weekend. My dad was down because he had off of work. So yeah, I am very behind. I am very, very, very behind. No joke. No jokes. Very behind. And I feel like my mouse just froze on me for some reason. Hold on a second. I think I need to change my battery. Hold on. I have some somewhere. Give me 1 second, because now this is acting crazy. I think I can get to them right here too. Yeah. It's like frozen. It stopped on the message on the screen, and now I can't get this open. I bought this really cool, like, double size charger pack, battery charger pack. We go through a lot of batteries in this house. Ooh. So hopefully these work okay. Is this going to work now? Oh, it's working now. Okay. I was frozen for a moment. Well, thank you. Thank you. Yeah, so I am behind on some documents. That's why I wish everyone I did this morning. I should have honestly done that one like over this weekend. But we're catching up. We're just catching up on things. We're just, yeah, catching up on things. Aries, yep, sure are. Stubborn ram. I did see the thing about peaches. I did. Okay, let's go ahead and get this document up and going to where y'all can actually see the whole thing. I'm glad the like mouse showed me that it was going to be going dead now instead of later when I was in the middle of reading. I guess I'm going to have to scoot over some more because it looks like I'm not even in the middle. Is that the biggest it's going to let me make it? That's poop. I just really like for y'all to be able to see it. Can y'all see that? That's about as big as I can get it without it breaking the screen. Does it show it until I save it? I think you guys can see that. That's about as big as I can get it to where you guys can like read along. And I also dropped the link in case you guys haven't seen it. It should be at the top somewhere to the document itself. I'll just drop it in here one more time. In case you want to follow along. While we go over it, get some of this stuff out the way. Again, it's 25 pages, but a lot of it, well, not a lot of it, I'll show you guys right now. Like towards the end, like he goes back over some of the 911 call stuff, and then he kind of goes in and like narrates like who takes the phone and when and what's going on whenever somebody's taking the phone. So it's kind of interesting. I didn't read a lot of it. I just kind of like skimmed through it to see what was all of this stuff. So I guess right here, when it comes to the driver and stuff like that, we're going to see where they were probably going to, get food maybe. But like the last, I think like 8 pages are like the transcript stuff that we've seen. The text messages where they say whether it's hearsay or not, or the excited utterance thing. So we'll probably skim through these just to see if maybe we notice anything different. But they look like it's exactly the exact same one for both of these that we've already seen. And we also need to remember too that they are allowing the defense's transcript to be the one that they are actually using. See, it's quite a few pages of this stuff. So just get back up to the top. Okay, I'm going to start reading this. I'll look over and see if I can see if anybody's saying anything, but I'm going to try to read because there's a lot here. So let's try to get through this and see if there's some new nuggies. I feel like there's a lots of new nuggies from these messages over her in this chat. Okay. Something I do want to say, I was talking to a buddy of mine earlier because he mentioned to me how the judge is now referring to Dylan and Bethany as surviving roommates. And it's interesting because in the bushy eyebrow one, I believe it's the bushy eyebrow one, he refers to Dylan specifically as the roommate of a victim, not a surviving roommate. So it's different how his verbiage and the way that he sort of like labels them in this differs, because those are two very completely different things. They have a completely different inference. Saying the roommate of a victim and saying a surviving roommate. There's a way different meaning there. So he goes back and forth a lot. Okay, let's just get started with this introduction. Dylan and Bethany are the two surviving roommates of 1122 King Road. At the time the homicides were believed to have occurred, Dylan saw, I should say, a masked intruder, not unmasked intruder. If it said unintruder, that'd be different. There's a lot of typos and stuff in this too. That they've gotten really, really sloppy. Both sides have gotten really sloppy. But just in the last few videos where we've gone over the orders for the judge, Damn. Like, I mean, he's calling Brent Payne. That's now judge number 2. That's inferenced Brent Kopaka in one way or another. So there's just a lot of just mess ups and typos and mistakes. Idaho should really be worried about where their tax dollars are going. I mean, the cheapest Android phones that are like free at Metro PCS have spell check. You would think with all the money that they have continued to get with all the extra prosecutors and all the extra stuff that's happening here, that they would have a decent proofreading system. Because it's bad. It's really, really bad. And it's, look, instantly, line 2, we're on to the issues. And like I've said, I'm just a YouTuber. I don't claim to be professional. I'm going to make my mistakes. But y'all are a court of law. You are an official document. This is a quadruple homicide. This is a death penalty case. How many people run through these things and the mistakes don't get caught? It just, what are you doing? You have like one job really, and that's to be a transcriber and somebody who proofreads things. It just seems like they're getting to the point where they don't care. They're sort of over it. I feel like it's just sort of like an I'm over it vibe. Okay, anyway, Dylan saw a masked intruder in the house and began calling and texting the other roommates, including Bethany. Approximately 8 hours after Dylan saw the intruder, Bethany called 911 from her phone. Yeah, Bethany called 911 from her phone. Before the court is the state's motion to allow the text messages by Dylan and Bethany, testimony about their conversations with each other about what Dylan saw, and the 911 call. The state argues these communications are either not hearsay or qualify under one or more exception to the hearsay rule. It also asks that a transcript of the 911 call be provided to the jury to view while listening to the audio. Fair. Defendant challenges several of the communications and objects to the use of the transcript, which is still interesting because it's the defendant's transcript, and there's literally nothing in, as far as we know, from everything that we have learned, at least, there's nothing in anything that Dylan said in any of her interviews, in any of the text messages, or on the 911 call that point to the suspect. Even when it comes down to like the big nose thing, the judge made some sort of reference to maybe saying something to Bethany about the person having a big nose in court. And then here comes the order regarding the bushy eyebrows. And what actually was said is that she was asked about a big nose and said that she didn't see anything and didn't remember anything about a big nose. And we already know that Bryan's face didn't trigger a memory whenever she saw him after he was arrested on her own accord, by the way, which is something else the judge sort of like inferenced incorrectly in his order. This judge is really just getting on my damn nerves. Like, really getting on my damn nerves a lot. A lot. You should do it on 2 times. When I go to edit myself, like to listen to myself after I'm done to see how it sounds, I listen to myself on 2 times. It's wild ride. Okay, yeah, this judge is really just on my nerves a lot. For real though. Okay. Oral argument on the motions was held on April 9th, 2025, after which the court took the matters under advisement. The court finds that some of the hearsay statements on the 911 call do not qualify under the exceptions cited by the state and therefore must be redacted. However, the balance of the 911 call, as well as the text and conversations noted herein, are likely admissible provided that the requisite foundation is laid at trial. And the footnote says the court's rulings on the specific text messages / phone activity and the 911 call statements are appended hereto in table format as exhibits A and B respectively. Those are the things that we just ran through real quick. The transcript will be allowed as a demonstrative aid, again assuming proper foundation is established. Which again, them having a transcript of the 911 call while listening to the 911 call, that seems more like a duh, that's how it should be type scenario. So nothing wrong with that. Bryan's eyes are intense. I feel like I'd recognize them personally, but also who knows in the heat of it. Well, that's the thing. That's the thing. I feel like maybe when she's being asked, do you recall enough to do a composite sketch? And she says, no, I don't. And she explains how her brain might have been playing tricks on her, that it was fuzzy, blah, 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 all the things. Okay. That's one thing. But to be shown a photo and it not trigger an involuntary response, that's a completely different situation. Something about his face would have triggered something in her. Regardless of if it was like a perfect memory, recollection, whatever, something. There would have been something. And there was nothing. She tried, according to what we've heard so far when it comes to her interview information. Nothing about his face triggered anything. His voice didn't sound like the unfamiliar voice, which had always annoyed me whenever Jennings tried to say, well, of course she didn't recognize his voice. Well, no, she didn't recognize it afterwards either, as the voice that she heard that she originally didn't recognize. You know what I mean? Like, it all matters. So I don't know how, with all of that, she's still even being like, I mean, I want to hear what the chick has to say. It's a very on the fence situation. Because, well, she's not credible whatsoever. Nothing she said, again, points to him. And nothing's adding up. Everything with their timeline keeps constantly changing. So while I want to hear every word that she feels the need to say, it's useless. Either way, it's useless. So I don't, it's annoying. Okay, standard. Whether a statement falls within the present sense impression or excited utterance exception is a question that is left to the sound discretion of the trial court, given consideration to the totality of the circumstances. Use of demonstrative aids is also a discretionary determination. On discretionary matters, a trial court must, and he actually puts this in like all of his motion orders. He has this portion in here. On discretionary matters, a trial court must 1. Correctly perceive the issue as one of discretion, 2. Act within the outer boundaries of its discretion, and 3. Act consistently with the legal standards applicable to the specific choices available to it. There's another one. And 4. Reach its decision by the exercise of reason. Facts. Why is facts a footnote? That's wild. Okay, number 2. The parties submitted various portions of the grand jury transcript as different exhibits, including the state's exhibits S-1 to the 911 call motion, defendant's exhibit 1 to his objection to the 911 call motion, and state's exhibits state's exhibits S-21 and S-3 to the text message motion. To avoid confusion, the court will cite to the grand jury transcript rather than cite to the individual exhibits. I mean, that would make the most sense. That would make the most sense. Citations to Dylan's and Bethany's phone activity in bubble format attached as Exhibit 1 and 2 respectively to defendant's objection to the state's text message motion will be referenced as Exhibits D1 and D2. So the court can just go in and willy-nilly relabel stuff, though. Like, I agree with it being like all separate exhibits from one big exhibit makes things a little bit more confusing, so it's easier and it would make things a lot more clear to just reference the grand jury transcript and then like the lines of text. It's interesting because the whole time the defense has been leaving things as it is, and the state we've basically found out that the state really sort of didn't do anything themselves because everything they're handing over that's a complete mess to the defense, they've basically stated as of these last sessions that we had, I think the one for April, that it's basically the same way it was given to them, meaning probably from the feds because we know that MPD didn't do anything. Oh, I am. Yeah, there's some interesting stuff in here so far. How does she know the color of clothing if it was dark? I mean, that's true. It's just like, how do they know the car was white in black and white video? You know, that's true. Could have easily been dark blue, a darker gray. I mean, shit, even brown maybe. Yeah. It just depends. But there was that neon sign, the neon sign and like the little glow lights. But even in the glow lights, it'd still be kind of hard to determine between certain colors. Yeah, like a dark navy. Yeah, you're not wrong. Okay. Here we go. Facts. The facts portion is usually the most interesting portion. Facts. After spending the evening out, roommates Dylan, Bethany, Kaylee, and Madison returned to their home. He has her fucking last name wrong. He has Madison in here as Madison Mogen. I cannot believe after almost 3 years in, I don't give a damn, they have her last name wrong. I sort of forgave Judge whenever he called Kaylee Kayla Goncalves or some completely wrong name because it was fresh. That's what I just said. JJJ gets a pass now. Well, thank you. Thank you very much. Thank you. I appreciate that. I cannot believe he just did that. I cannot believe he called her Madison Mogen. I'm so pissed. Not just him. Oh, yeah. Oh, hey there, Richard. Hi. Yeah, this is insane. But not just him. The clerks of court. I cannot believe he called her Madison Mogen. Completely disrespectful. Yeah, you just threw me completely off, broski. I appreciate it. Thank you. I cannot believe he did that. I'm so pissed now. God damn. Okay. Let me reread it because now I'm thrown off. I cannot believe he did that. I hope that her parents throw a fit. Where's Maddie's mom and dad? I hope they throw the biggest fit ever because how long have you been over this case now and your people didn't even bother? I am just wow, okay. We're going to just start this and it's over again. Jeez. After spending the evening out, roommates Dylan, Bethany, Kaylee, and Maddie returned to their home at 1122 King Road in the early morning hours of November 13th, 2022. At approximately 2 a.m., they met up in Kaylee's bedroom and talked for a while before going to bed. So this is it. Okay. The fifth roommate, Xana Kernodle, who was out with her boyfriend Ethan Chapin, was not home yet. Okay, so they've been telling us this whole time that they got home at 1:45. Well, now here we are at 2 o'clock, and they're saying that Ethan and Xana are not there. But we also need to remember that Xana did tell her dad that around midnight she was at home, but we also need to remember that it's just a few minute walk to the party that they were going back and forth at anyway. So they could have gone home and left again and been gone at around this time. So that's interesting to know because, again, they've been saying 1:45, everybody was home. Again, they just proved to be liars. It's ridiculous. Okay. The roommates debated going out to a food truck for a late snack, prompting Dylan to send a text at 2:10 a.m. to an Uber driver she knew to see if he was driving. That's the Eric Gower messages. Ultimately, however, the girls decided to just go to bed. And look, he's jumping. He's just jumping to approximately 4 o'clock in the morning. Dylan hears noises. So at 3:51, she just magically in her sleep, she's add contact. What? So we're going to forget that she was manually having to do something on her phone, type a name in, add a contact, decide what email it's going to be saved under, all the things. We're going to just glance right over that even happening again. He's done this in every single one of these. I saw something over here. What just happened? Too much to handle. Member for 3 months. Ooh. Maybe the lights of a screen are not good for you right now. Maybe just put it down and listen so that you don't have the lights in your eyes. Seizures are scary. Seizures are scary. Why would Kaylee and Maddie have even considered going out to a food truck? They'd just been to a food truck eating mac and cheese, which is super filling. Yeah, that's true. But they got the one and they shared it and being super drunk. Maybe they were just, maybe it wasn't enough. Maybe it wasn't enough. Yeah, this is a lot of information, though. And also, like, lies. I mean, we're learning that more lies have been told. More lies. 5 months. Thank you for being here. Yeah, half a mac and cheese. I'm going back out for more. Right? Yeah. Half of, like, yeah, it was like a half an order, right? Between the two of them, they were super drunk, like wobbling, ocean leg drunk. Yeah. I mean, I could see them wanting to maybe go back out and get more food. But see, this makes it a little bit more confusing though, because there was food. But the people who ordered the food are not even home whenever this conversation about ordering food is happening. See, and that's completely possible too, because the only people the story that that story is coming from are the two people that have a reason to make a story up. You know? Hmm. Yeah. But they still didn't go to bed either. What time were the text messages? Not text messages, the phone calls, because the phone calls back and forth to Jack is after this too. And if he texted back and said he was driving, why didn't they just go ahead and get food then? And he's okay. So are they trying to say that he also works for Uber? Because why is he calling him an Uber driver? He's not an Uber driver. He's a private driver, like for actual drunk college students, unless he literally is also logged into Uber and driving Uber at the same time. But he still would not be an Uber driver for something that's being done through a personal phone number. Right? 2:52. Almost 3, right? So at 2 o'clock, they're like, "Oh, we want food," and they just stayed up for a whole nother hour calling Jack back to back to back to back to back. Is Steve really on turkey? If he is, then I'll review it tomorrow. I'm not gonna go get my blood pressure all screwed up today. These documents are more important than that mess. I'm surprised he's over there. No, not tonight. Y'all can. I won't. I will be doing a critique and a review, but I will not. Mm-mm. I will not. Tomorrow while I'm working, so I can have something to entertain myself, and I'll take notes on it, and we'll talk about it tomorrow maybe. I will. I will. Which I'm sure Turkey is expecting. Jackie. Smells like fish to me. Yeah, it's all bullshit. Docu Lies is right. Like, how many freaking things that we already noticed were wrong? Wow. I'm actually really surprised he's over there. Like, now that y'all told me that, I'm just like, damn, that's crazy that he's even over there talking. I'm surprised it's taken him this long. I mean, yeah. Insanity. Okay, let's see what else we find. Oh, of course it is. Of course it's pre-recorded. And he's probably going to delete it like he did with Christie's. And someone is going to notice that he left some stuff out whenever he does his review like he did last time. And he's going to get called out for hiding information. I don't know why he does this. See, and that's a good question too. I wonder why Maddie called Bethany around 2:53. But see, now people are questioning if that's Maddie or if it's MM the driver messaging Bethany. Because now we have the DoorDash MM, so people are questioning that. I just okay, again. I don't know why he keeps calling him an Uber driver. That's not his label when it comes to what he was doing that night. Unless they were going to be getting food through Uber, then it wouldn't matter who was driving because they would just go to Uber Eats in the app and order the food. So the fact that they're reaching out to somebody about a food order and then he's calling him an Uber driver is strange to me. And I just don't know why he's labeling him that, especially guys, like if you go back to the original interviews with the Goncalveses, anytime that like the driver was mentioned, they made sure that they called him like a private driver and they didn't put an actual label on it because of all the discrepancy and issues in the beginning. So I wonder why the judge is circling back to that. But here comes the lie where he pretends like she was asleep the entire time and not adding people to her freaking phone. At approximately 4 a.m., Dylan heard strange noises and crying coming from the bathroom. She opened her door at one point and saw a man dressed in black with a ski mask on walking by her bedroom door. She then placed calls and texts to her other roommates to see if they were awake. Only Bethany, who resided on the ground floor, answered. They spoke once for 24 seconds, during which Dylan told Bethany she thought she heard something. They spoke again a minute later for 41 seconds when Dylan told Bethany she saw a man in a ski mask leaving the house. That's not true. Third footnote. Bethany testified to her recollection of the content of those two phone calls before the grand jury. However, Dylan could not recall specifics about what was said. Okay, so why did we need a footnote for that? So Bethany recalled the conversation between the phone calls, but Dylan didn't remember anything. Again, I don't know why we needed a footnote for that. That's kind of stupid considering that we've got the text messages. We don't need their memory. We have it in black and white stored in the phone information. Okay. Then they exchanged. Oh, well, no, we don't. Not the phone calls. That's true. Damn. We have no idea what was said. That's true. Okay. They then exchanged the following text messages between 4:22 and 4:26. I'll read through them again. I don't think there's anything different. Okay. Dylan to Bethany, no one is answering. Dylan to Bethany, I'm really confused right now. Dylan to Kaylee. Dylan to Bethany, what's going on? Bethany to Dylan, yeah, dude, WTF. Bethany to Dylan, Xana was wearing all black. Dylan to Bethany, I'm freaking out right now. Dylan to Bethany, no, it's like a ski mask almost. Bethany to Dylan, shut the F up. Bethany to Dylan, actually. Dylan to Bethany, like he had something over his forehead and little and mouth. Dylan to Bethany. Bethany, I'm not kidding. I'm so freaked out. Bethany to Dylan, so am I. Dylan to Bethany, my phone is going to die. F. Bethany to Dylan, come to my room. Run. Down here. Dylan to Bethany, I think it's probably scared. It could be screwed. I think it's probably scared because I am under the understanding that they are fully aware, both of them are fully aware that something is going on in that house because they're both saying that they're freaking out. They're both having a conversation about things and admitting the fact that something is going on and they don't want to be alone. So I'm going to say it's probably scared, which just gives more responsibility to the fact that she should have called 911. That's just how I'm going to put it. I'm scared, though. Bethany. Yeah, I know, but it's better than being alone. I missed something over here. Hello, Mad Season. How you doing? I missed something else. I saw something green. Oh, well, thank you, Miller Time. You gifted 10 memberships. That is awesome. Thank you very much. And congratulations to the ones that get those memberships. Grub truck closes 2:30. Is there other food trucks? Is what I would like to know. You got one. You wanted one. You got one. Look at that. Thank you, Miller Time. Thank you. Yeah, I'm really wondering if there's other food trucks, not just that one. I literally said this. Okay, so my video about the bushy eyebrow one, it's recorded and ready to go, but it's for my Aura sponsorship. So I'm waiting for the ad to be approved. Plus there's the Touch DNA order that we have to do in between because I did the car one this morning. I said this. I say this in the one about the bushy eyebrows because Dylan talks about how what she sees is like she's got blurry goggles on and it's fuzzy and she can't see straight. And I'm thinking about the timing and I'm like, did she see Xana in her all black clothes walking back walking back from getting the DoorDash? And that's why she thinks she saw somebody wearing all black with something in their hands because it was the freaking food? And like, what if Xana had like something on her face? Like, what if she had like a black facial mask or something on because she was at home waiting on her food? And that's actually what Dylan saw. Like, I say this, like, not the facial stuff, like that part just came to my mind right now. But I said this in that one. You'll see whenever it comes out. I'm like, what if she saw Xana in her all black clothes that she was wearing? Because we have the photo of Xana wearing all black. It's said in the messages that Xana was wearing all black. What if she was so out of it, she opened her door? Because remember, she also said she heard singing and music. Like the whole scene, you can't even like really put the scene together in your head because you're trying to think like scary intruder guy with a knife going after people. But then you hear she heard singing and music, almost like karaoke was happening. It's really hard to like envision it, but I wondered that. I'm like, did she possibly see Xana like holding the food in her hand? And whatever happened, like went down like right after she saw Xana walking back with the food. Or maybe whenever she did see Xana, if she did see Xana, it had nothing to do with that time. It could have been a completely different time. There's no telling. Oh, it's insane. It drives me nuts. It drives me insane. See, and that's another thing. Ethan is the one. It came from Ethan's account. The DoorDash came from Ethan's account. Ethan and Xana are not even there whenever the conversation about getting food is being had, and they're not trying to go through an app. They're trying to go through somebody that they know. This whole thing is insane. Hey, Willie. Yeah, just wild. Was he fired up? Ooh. If he doesn't delete the damn thing, then maybe we'll go over it in a live tomorrow night. But he's known to go in and delete them, edit them down, and then repost them. So we'll see what he does, but for sure, I'll be talking about it. Thank you for the $10. Say it louder. I'll be talking about it. I'm sure he's over there riled up. He doesn't have to be on his P's and Q's whenever he's not talking to Trashley Banfield. He can say whatever he wants. So I'm expecting it to be interesting. I can't lie and say that I'm not looking forward to listening to it. For real, it'll be interesting. It really will be. This stuff's crazy, right? Super insane. Okay, let's continue. Okay. There's a footnote regarding Exhibit D1, and it just says the typos and abbreviations are in the original messages. Okay, so you no shit. Like, it's okay for the text messages to have typos, Judge Man. It's not okay for you to get the victim's last name wrong and have 20 mistakes in your first paragraph of your order. That's what's not okay. We don't need an excuse for the drunk girls. Okay. During the foregoing exchange, Dylan also attempted contacting Ethan Chapin through Snapchat. This came from the grand jury transcripts. And it says that Dylan testified before the grand jury that Instagram is a text messaging app that is used by young adults to communicate. I mean, it wasn't always used for that. I hear that Instagram's a lot of spammy, scammy, naked girl crypto type accounts and stuff lately. Like, it's not what it used to be at all. She again tried calling Kaylee and Xana, but neither responded. Dylan then exited her room and began running towards Bethany's bedroom. On her way, she noticed Xana lying on the... I told you. I told you. I said this. I said they said that she saw her. They said that she saw her. People were saying, no, you didn't hear it right. There's no way that she saw Xana. Why would she have seen Xana? The door was supposed to be shut. She didn't see Xana. That's not what they meant. That's exactly what they meant. She did see her. I was right. God damn. That just makes me more sick because you see her on the floor. It doesn't matter if you think she's drunk or not. If you think she's passed out so much from so much alcohol that she's on the ground, you then still choose to do nothing. You are just useless, Dylan. Okay? You're useless. Disgusting. On her way, she noticed Xana lying on the floor of her bedroom with her head towards the wall and her feet towards the door. Dylan thought Xana was drunk. Insane. Her head towards the wall, her feet towards the door. That changes the way that I envisioned her in her room. I always had her positioned a certain way after reading the PCA and listening and envisioning the way that they would have been walking towards Xana's door and seeing her across the room, but that changes the vision a little. But still, she did nothing. You're so freaked out that you're running to not be alone, to be with somebody else in another bedroom because you're freaking the shit out, and you see someone on the floor and you just continue to just go. My brain is saying a lot of bad things. So I don't like doing lives because I would be like totally cussing right now. A million thousand disgusting, horrible sailor words are just going through my brain right now. I'm so mad. Like, how many more of these people are going to keep giving her excuses? So many people. I'll leave her alone. She's just a college kid. No, she's a useless human. Like, literally all the way around, a completely useless freaking human. People like her are dangerous in their own way. Damn. Okay. Once Dylan arrived at Bethany's room, they locked the door and both made additional unanswered calls to the other roommates. At 4:32 a.m., Dylan again texted Kaylee, "Please answer," with no response. Between approximately 5 a.m. and 6:30 a.m., Dylan engaged in activity on her phone, primarily creating, editing, and deleting images and videos of what? You're going to sit there and tell us that after she's tripping and she's freaking out because she sees somebody in a mask and she runs to her friend's room because she doesn't want to be alone and she's seeing somebody laying out on the floor, that she's sitting there and creating videos and photos, and you're not going to tell us what? Go ahead. Keep letting the conspiracies fly because y'all want to be stupid. Her phone activity then ceased until 8:05 when Dylan accessed Instagram for a few minutes. At 10 a.m., Dylan again accessed Instagram and communicated over Snapchat. At 10:23, she texted Madison asking, "Are you up?" She received no response. Dylan continued to access Instagram and Snapchat until 11:29 a.m. when she texted Kaylee, "Are you up?" Again, there was no response, which Dylan thought was strange because Kaylee and Madison were early wakers. Dylan continued accessing various social media sites, including checking Ethan and Xana's Snap Map locations. At approximately 11:40, Dylan's father texted her about scheduling a time for a chat, to which Dylan responded. She also received 2 texts from a person named Xana stating, "Bro," and "Do you guys need me to come get you?" And wasn't there movement between Bethany and Xana? Because Xana, like the JM initial, was going back and forth between both Bethany and Dylan. So I'm going to assume that at that point, Bethany would have maybe spoken to Xana for Xana to have just unprovoked sent Dylan those messages. But we should see that here in a minute because they have all that stuff attached here. Do you guys need me to come and get you? Not, do you need me to come wait for the cops with you? Do you need me to come and get you? Okay. At approximately 11:50 a.m., Dylan called her friend EA, which is Emily, and asked her to come over and check the house because she was scared. Again, This changes so many things because the way that Christy came out and told the story on Drunk Turkey, conveniently, was that Hunter Johnson was called over specifically because they could not get Xana's door open. So they needed a strong guy to come and open the freaking door. That's the story. That's been the story this whole time. And now, instead, she's not leaving her room to go check and see where Kaylee and Maddie are, to see why they're not answering the phone. She can apparently see from the snap map that Xana and Ethan are in the house. She's not hearing all the phones ringing. Bethany's not hearing the phones going off and no one answering. Exactly. Like, you saw her on the floor. What you checking the map for? Who shut the freaking door then? If it was open, that's what I'm saying. Yeah, I am mad. I've been angry. Like, this is the I just don't understand. That was my biggest question. From the second that Christy came out and told us that story, I'm like, what you mean? They called an outside source instantly. Instead of going upstairs and knocking on Maddie's door or Kaylee's door or both doors and being like, hey, come help us. We can't get Xana and Ethan's door open. They're not answering the phone. Something's wrong. That's been the question for almost 3 years now. The fake 911 call, yeah, that, like, the acting in that is wild. Wild. Okay, let's go. Continuing. I know. I don't know. Damn. I don't know. They've been saying 145 the whole time, but according to this, see, this is why I have like this ginormous ass spreadsheet, and I've been putting off putting stuff in it because I know it constantly changes, but I'm going to have no choice. Like, I have to go in there and get this damn thing done. Because that changes so many more things. They've been saying this whole time, 145, 145, 145, with no proof of nothing. 2 o'clock in the morning, they're talking about getting food, and Xana and Ethan aren't there yet. So sometime between, what, 2:10 and 4? Was there a time for when the DoorDash order was placed? I don't think there was a time for whenever it was placed, just the time whenever it was dropped off. I'm like, this is so stupid. That's probably why right there, I've said this whole time, the reason why they don't want to come back across state lines is because they know that they should have called 911, that there is very, 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 very prominent proof that they were aware that something was happening, that there was aware that people needed help, and they failed to call for it. That's illegal. They don't want to come back, especially Bethany. We really haven't heard that Dylan doesn't want to come back across state lines, because I don't think that I don't really think that's the issue with her about testifying or any of that. Maybe the whole testifying thing, but when it comes to the document fight, when it comes to anyone testifying, it's Bethany that we see the most. She didn't want to come back. She wanted them to go to her. She didn't want to come back for what? Because you should have called 911? Because maybe not all 4 people had to die? Because you were aware that some shit was going on and you chose to do nothing collectively? Meaning that you're in on whatever the hell was happening. There's no way that you don't know the situation and behave this way without knowing the situation. Like this, there's no way that this was just a situation that just randomly freaking happened and both of them decided to both collectively not call the cops, not get help. There's no way. Do you know the chances of that? Slim to none. Because for them to be freaking out enough but still not leaving the house, why would you want to corner yourself in the bottom bedroom right there by the front door instead of leaving out that front door? This is insane. God damn. Okay. At approximately 11:50 a.m., Dylan called her friend Emily and asked her to come over and check the house because she was scared. Emily and her boyfriend, Hunter Johnson, came over. They met Dylan and Bethany at the bottom floor of the house. Together, Dylan, Bethany, and Hunter started to walk up the stairs to the second floor. When they reached the second floor, Hunter went to the kitchen to grab a kitchen knife. So I guess because at that point, well, we know that she did say to them that she did see somebody in the house. So I guess that makes sense. Okay. But this next part my eyes just saw doesn't make no sense to what we heard. When he came back out, Dylan saw Xana again for a split second. And I just started bawling because I thought she had just I don't even know. I thought maybe she was still just drunk and all asleep on the floor. So again, you see her, even if it is for a split second, this is now the second time that you've seen her. And we're supposed to believe that she had been attacked so brutally that her fingers were almost completely severed off of her hand. We're supposed to believe that she was attacked so brutally and had laid there bleeding out for 8 hours that her blood was leaking out of the home. But you see her twice and you don't see blood? Huh. That is kind of interesting that the story includes Hunter Johnson grabbing a knife. Yeah. Because I don't hear anything about the door being closed. And that was the main thing that Kaylee Goncalves told us. Well, that's what I was saying. Why is Hunter grabbing a knife whenever they think that she's just drunk? But then I have to remember that on the 911 call, Emily just say, oh, and, it's that fleeting thought, that fleeting back end thought of, oh, yeah, and they saw somebody walking around the house. They're more concerned about the fact they think that Xana is basically alcohol poisoned on the ground. That's what I'm saying. And that was my whole thing, bro. Whenever Kaylee Goncalves came out with that story, I was like, so you mean to tell me that there was nothing leading between the two crime scenes? That's where the whole thought has come from. There was no blood in between the crime scenes. There was no blood spatter on the walls of the stairs. There was nothing that anyone touched. There was nothing that got dripped off of the person or persons that were running around and attacking these people. This doesn't make any more sense. This makes less sense every time we read anything. I'm so tired of this damn case. I am so tired of this case. That's my point. That's my freaking point. Everything that we have heard so far when it comes to the house, what was the first thing that we heard? There was no blood outside the house, no blood trail outside the house, no scent was picked up outside the home. That's the main reason why my daughter has always put her eyes on the roommates, especially Dylan, because there was no proof of the way that anybody came in or left. That was number one. They told us that from the very beginning. And up until Bryan was arrested, that story never changed. It was an assumption about the backslider based off of what Dylan said while she could barely see because she couldn't, her eyes were fuzzy. She couldn't make anything out clearly, and she thought her brain was playing tricks on her. This is insane as shit. I gotta keep on reading. My blood pressure is getting all crazy and I'm getting mad, and I just know that I'm just gonna get more mad. So let's just get it over with. This is wild. Well, now I know why the grand jury needed more information. I just don't understand how you have all this insanity and feel like you even know what you're doing even a little. Befuddled. This is insane. Okay. But this sentence is also kind of confusing because it says that he went into the kitchen and grabbed a kitchen knife. And then it says, when he came back out, Dylan saw Xana again for a split second. So I'm guessing that, well, I guess, yeah, that it was her that on the 911 call that he was saying, get out, get out, get out to. Yeah, okay, that would make sense. Okay. And again, I just don't God, you're seeing her on the ground twice. That's insane. Okay. Hunter told Dylan and Bethany to get out. Emily, who had started up the stairs, also turned around after Hunter instructed her not to come any further. They both went outside. Shortly afterwards, Hunter exited the house and told them to call 911. He was pale white and mentioned something about someone being unconscious. I am so even more confused. Okay. I'm getting so fucking mad. This doesn't make any sense. We hear him on the 911 call saying, get out, get out, get out. So are they trying to tell us that that scenario happened twice? Because the only way that this makes any sense is if Emily and Hunter got there, Hunter went inside, saw Xana, told them to get out and call 911, but then went back inside the house, and it was actually Kaylee and Maddie that he found and said, get out, get out, get out again while on the 911 call. That's the only way this is making any sense. I am so damn confused. What the shit? And how do you just think someone's unconscious if we're being told that they were slashed to death? That's my point. That's my point. I'm so freaking confused. The only way that makes sense is if it happened twice. That's the only way this makes any sense. Is if they did it twice. Because they said, just like they just said here about how Emily didn't go all the way up. I think Ann Taylor's the one who told us that she went up to the top of the stairs, never actually walked around on the second floor because she instantly turned around. Emily is the one on the 911 call. So that's how I'm seeing this now. Hunter and Emily get there. Hunter goes up the stairs, grabs a knife out the kitchen, goes in and sees Xana. No one's saying anything about a freaking door. No one is saying anything about a door. So why is the story that Christy Goncalves told Daniel on Drunk Turkey about Hunter Johnson having to come over and get Xana's door open, and that Ethan's body was stuck behind the freaking door? Guys. And see, I know that people mentioned something about the hallway, but the PCA also says that whenever he's walking whenever Payne is walking towards Xana's door, that he sees Xana first. And I always just figured this because they explained that she was like across at the wall. So if the door is open, the doorway's open and you're walking towards the door, you can see across the way at the wall. And then he didn't notice Ethan until he got closer because Ethan was behind the door. They literally made it sound as if Hunter had to come in, strong arm the goddamn door open, and then see inside, saw the bloody mess, and then ran out. None of that was true. None of that was true. Oh, man. And now we've got the judge telling both sides to get together to figure out the lie. See, the poor Kaylee. So that would mean, see, and that right there, that would literally mean that this scenario happened twice. That he went inside, saw Xana, but we hear him saying Xana and Ethan's name on the call. You guys. We hear him saying their names on the freaking 911 call. This does not work. How does the judge not know that? He has the freaking transcript. He has the call. He can hear what we can hear. We hear Hunter saying Xana and Ethan's freaking names. And then saying, get out, get out, get out. It's literally the scenario that we were told playing out during the 911 call. This does not make sense. I am getting angry. This is insane. Let's continue. Insane. All right. So at this point, they're making the 911 call. Hunter has seen Xana. There's no mention of any blood. And even again, so this is Dylan seeing Xana 8 hours before this, not noticing blood anywhere. Then we have this scenario where it sounds as if Dylan and Hunter are both seeing Xana. 2 people, 3 different technical sightings, and not a single one mentions blood. This shit don't make no sense. This don't make no sense. Okay. At 11:56 a.m., Bethany called 911 from her cell phone and spoke to Carolina Calvin, the 911 dispatcher. The call lasted 4 minutes and 11 seconds. During the call, the phone was passed around to different individuals, including Bethany, Dylan, Hunter, and an unidentified female speaker. I'm sorry. What the frick does that mean? We were told it was Emily. So it's not Emily? On the 911 call? Who the frick was it? Because, they've already said EA. So if it was EA, shouldn't he be saying including Bethany, Dylan, Hunter, and EA? Who's this unidentified female speaker that's apparently a neighbor then, if it's not her? So we're going to end up having an entirely new person that we've never seen or heard of before show up and probably testify. Because this would be a completely different person. Damn. So what? Okay, so then where's Emily? Just standing around? That's what I thought. No, not that one. Just a few minutes, like 3 minutes, I think, not far. I thought it was Emily too, but he's saying an unidentified female speaker. So they're going to have to clarify that because we thought it was Emily. We thought it was Emily. Okay. Heaving, heavy breathing, and crying can be heard throughout the call. Bethany spoke first, stating, "Something is happening. Something happened in our house, and we don't know what." And Bethany attempted to provide the address of the house to dispatch, but could not continue. At that point, here he says it again. An unidentified female speaker took the phone and provided the address. No, it's not EA. That's the thing. We were told the whole time that it, like, since it came out, we've been under the impression it was, but he's calling her somebody different. And he's already used EA's initials. So if it was EA, he would be putting EA. He's already used the initials. But he also has a shit ton of things wrong. So there's that too. There's that too. All right. So let's go through this transcript again to see if they've done anything, put anything else in here, because I don't know. I know for a fact that we don't have all of the activity, the social media, call, text message activity between them. We don't have all of that. We know that. They've told us that. I don't feel like we wouldn't have information from the 911 call because we've already heard it, unless they've literally redacted whole portions instead of just some of the like audio words like they did with Hunter's. So we'll see. Okay. 911 operator. Okay, and tell me exactly what's going on. Oh, this is so it's not from the beginning. Okay. Okay, yeah. Female. One of the roommates who's passed out and she was drunk last night and she's not waking up. So this unknown female that's not Emily apparently started off with one of our roommates. I did hear that. And it switched to one of the roommates. Yeah, I do remember that. Okay. 911. Okay. Female. Oh, and they saw some man in their house last night. Yeah. 911. And are you with the patient? I've never been asked from the 911 operator if I'm with a patient. That's just odd. Like, I hear that in my daily day because of my job. A little strange. Okay. Dylan. Hi, this is Dylan. 911. Okay. I need someone to keep the phone. Stop passing it around. Dylan. Can I just tell you what happened pretty much? 911 operator. What is going on currently? Is someone passed out right now? Dylan. I don't really know, but pretty much at 4 a.m. Already trying to set the whole story up. 911. Okay. I need to know what's going on right now. If someone is passed out, can you find that out? Yeah, I'll come. Come on, B. We got to go check, but we have to. Is she passed out? She's passed out. What's wrong? She's not waking up. Xana. See, this is them discovering Xana on the 911 call. So how the frick is the judge and Jennings and everyone going to sit there and gaslight everyone into thinking that that happened prior to the 911 call? He's literally putting in his own order in the transcript the fact Xana is the reason for the 911 call. But then also the fact that Xana's name is also being said while they're on the 911 call. Like they're being discovered while it's happening. I don't know how he doesn't see this. This doesn't make any damn sense. I really don't think that they had eyes on Xana at all before this 911 call. I don't care. There's just no way. There's no way. Dylan then informed dispatch that Xana was 20 years old. At that point, Hunter took the phone. Dispatch asked him if she was breathing, to which Hunter answered no. Law enforcement arrived at that point, and after confirming with Dylan that the responding officer had a defibrillator, dispatch ended the call. Later, at approximately 1:04 p.m. that day, Dylan received a vandal alert regarding the homicide. Okay, why do we need to know that Dylan got that? Everyone got that. Okay, analysis. The state seeks to admit Dylan and Bethany's phone records from November 13th, 2022, including call records and text messages, as well as illicit testimony by Dylan and Bethany regarding their communications with each other on November 13th, 2022, that they testified to before the grand jury. The state also seeks to admit the 911 call and the official transcript thereof. Oh, hold on a second. Okay. Oh, where were we? Okay. The state argues these records and communication are not hearsay, or they are expected from hearsay as excited. He said exited. They're called exited utterances now, guys. We have to refer to them as exited utterances from now on. I'm going to retitle the thumbnail, maybe. Exited utterances. I'm tired of these people. I'm so tired of these people. Or present sense impressions. Defendant objects, arguing that apart from Hunter's statement to 911 that Xana was not breathing, the exceptions do not apply to the hearsay statements. The court finds the bulk of the statements are likely admissible, with 3 exceptions of statements made during the 911 call. Hearsay is an out-of-court statement admitted to prove the truth of the matter asserted, IRE 801. To be hearsay, the statement must be intended as an assertion of fact and offered by the proponent for purposes of proving the truth of the assertion. If a statement is hearsay, to be admitted, it must fall under an exception. Hearsay statements on a 911 call can typically be admitted into evidence under either the public record or business record exceptions to the hearsay rule. However, because citizens who call 911 are not under any duty to report, a recorded statement by a citizen must satisfy a separate hearsay exception. Typically, these exceptions include the present sense impression exception and the excited utterance exception. Oh, look, he got it right. He got it right. He's going to get on my nerves. Okay. The present sense impression exception authorizes the admission of hearsay if it is a statement describing or explaining an event or condition made while or immediately after the declarant perceived it. The rationale justifying the exception is that the immediacy of the statement offers no opportunity for fabrication. The rule recognizes that in many, if not most instances, precise contemporaneity, is not possible, and hence a slight time lapse is allowable. In Sazier, the Idaho Supreme Court observed that time lapses as short as 45 minutes have been considered too long to invoke the protection of the exception. Well, we've got 8 hours, home skillet. 8. The excited utterance exception to the hearsay rule authorizes the admission of hearsay if the testimony recounts a statement relating to a startling event or condition while the declarant was under the stress of excitement caused by the event or condition. To fall within the excited utterance exception, 1. There must be a startling event that renders inoperative the normal reflective thought process of the observer, and 2. The declarant's statement must be a spontaneous reaction to that event rather than the result of reflective thought. Well, anything after 8 hours is a reflective thought, homie. The text messages at the time, the phone call information at the time, cool. Have at it. 8 hours later, nah. You're letting them make their lie that they had 8 hours to make up and fabricate a fact. That's all you're doing. I do not like him. In considering whether a statement meets the excited utterance requirements, the totality of circumstances must be considered, including the amount of time that elapsed between the startling event and the statement, the nature of the condition or event, the age and condition of the declarant, the presence or absence of self-interest, and whether the statement was volunteered or made in response to a question. There is no bright line rule as to the allowable time span between the event and the statement, and one likely should not be drawn. As with the present sense impression exception, the rationale underlying the excited utterance exception is the special reliability, which is regarded as furnished by the excitement, suspending the declarant's powers of reflection and fabrication. How do you not see that that's all that this is? Complete and utter fabrication, the entire thing. Text messages and verbal conversations between Dylan and Bethany are likely admissible. As an initial matter, the court finds that Dylan and Bethany's acts of making phone calls, sending or receiving text messages, and other phone activity, such as accessing social media, are not hearsay. Hearsay only captures an oral assertion, written assertion, or nonverbal conduct intended as an assertion. Thus, this order will focus on the content of those calls and text to the extent available. As to the content of Dylan and Bethany's text messages about what Dylan saw, the court finds they are either not hearsay because they are not offered for the truth of the matter asserted, or not assertions, or, if hearsay, they likely qualify as a present sense impression and or excited utterance as set forth in Exhibit A hereto. Their verbal discussions are potentially admissible for these same reasons. The state must establish the foundational requirements for such proffered statements at the time of trial. I agree. Everything that was said at the time that this was happening, it all needs to be in there. All of it. It all needs to be heard. The truth of it. Not the bullshit. The facts. The facts. I'm really actually just curious if there's going to be something different submitted by the state when it comes to the information between them that came from the forensic download of their phones versus what the defense's forensic expert is going to find. Because they brought somebody special in, and for some reason they really want to focus on Dylan's messages with her dad. And in this, he just made it sound as if, oh, it was just her dad trying to figure out a time to schedule a chat, just a Sunday chit chat. He doesn't really look like the Sunday chit chat kind of guy. I'm just saying. So I just don't believe that was like the first time that they had conversation that day. I don't think so at all. I just don't believe it at all. Okay. Dylan. Ooh, are we getting to some specifics? Let's get to some more specifics. Okay. Dylan texts Uber driver at 2:10:29 to inquire if he is driving. And again, that Uber driver thing is insane to me because of, again, the fight to keep it a private driver, to keep the verbiage accurate and correct the way that they've fought to keep it that way. And then now this judge is just coming in here and throwing the label of Uber on here. And I could have sworn, no, maybe it was for Bryan. We had somebody come out. I think DoorDash came out at some point and said that he didn't work for them. Just the fact he keeps using Uber is just interesting to me. Okay. The state seeks to introduce this text to establish a timeline, specifically to establish Dylan was awake and texting at 2:10 a.m. Defendant does not directly challenge the text because it is not offered for the truth of the matter asserted or not an assertion of fact. The court finds it is not hearsay under IRE 801. Text messages between 4:22 and 4:26 a.m. It's only a 4-minute period. And again, after the car is gone. Let's remember that too. The state argues that the 4-minute series of text messages between Dylan and Bethany, with one from Dylan to Kaylee, are admissible as either present tense impressions or excited utterances. Defendant suggests neither exception applies because there is no evidence they were sufficiently startled by the events. He points out that Dylan claimed only to be confused, and despite stating she was scared, she ran to Bethany's room instead of leaving the house or otherwise calling other friends and family for help. The court agrees with the state for those texts qualifying as assertions. And there's number 6 footnote. Several of the texts in this exchange are not assertions of fact, but rather inquiries and or commands incapable of being proved true or false. Noting that instructions, commands, requests, and inquiries are typically not assertions for purposes of the IRE 801. Okay. And yeah, this part's really true. And makes like the least amount of sense for the situation. You don't leave. You go and you put yourself in the basement, technically, literally backing yourself into a corner while you think there's some intruder guy in your house. Why would you do that instead of running out of the house and going next door and banging on the door and getting help from somebody? Even if you were too scared to just like run out and call 911 because you wanted to be like safe, go pound on a door, something. Instead, you just put yourself in a worse situation. It doesn't make sense. It doesn't make sense at all. At all. First, the present tense impression exception does not require a startling event. It simply requires that the speaker describe or explain a condition while personally perceiving it or immediately thereafter. Most of Dylan's texts to Bethany satisfy this exception. She first texts, "No one is answering," which describes the results of her calls to the other roommates just moments before. She also states that she is immediately feeling confused, freaked out, and scared over what she just saw and heard and the fact that none of her roommates are answering. I cannot stand the way that he puts his footnotes in the middle of his sentences. Like, I know why he did it here, because it's about, the word she misspelled, but he does it randomly in random sentences that don't quote things either, and it gets really annoying. Okay, number 7. Her text states she was SCRWD, considering that the A is right next to the caps lock key and the E is right next to the W key. It is evident she was likely texting quickly and accidentally mistyped scared. I believe it's probably scared too. It makes more sense and puts responsibility, because it proves that she was aware there was a situation, there was danger, there was a problem, and she still chose not to act. Okay, one second. Again, where is the dog? Yeah, great question. And it's also just insane that we're now hearing, well, not now, we've known since I think January, right? January. That Murphy was barking outside, and then it abruptly stops after he barks his head off for 30 minutes outside. And neither one of them were saying anything about Murphy barking. But it was really actually insane to me too that there was, I think she was a Vanity Fair journalist, I think. And in that CW thing, she literally says that something about how Dylan apparently said something to Kaylee about shutting Murphy up, or about Murphy barking. We've never heard anyone mention a damn thing about the dog. So I don't know where she got that information from. Because even in the text messages that we do have and all the stuff we have now, there's nothing ever about anyone saying anything about the dog. So that chick is making stuff up. It's wild to me. Thank you for the 1999, Noel. I very much appreciate it. Thank you very much. Thank you very much. Yeah, this is an issue that was brought to my attention by somebody pretty closely connected to the case, that they noticed that Dylan didn't call her boyfriend, that she was freaking out and whatnot. But even during the morning time, whenever, she's on social media, photos, videos, all the things that she's doing all throughout the morning, that there's no contact with her boyfriend. And there's a portion of the Linda Lane footage, I think it's 4:24 in the morning. Somebody in all black runs from the direction of King Road and gets into a big truck that looks like it just has a camper over the truck bed, and it's loud, bassy, and they jet up out of there. You can kind of hear the engine for a while. I've just always kind of wondered if maybe Dylan didn't reach out to him because he was there, and he left because they realized something crazy happened, or he's could be involved in it, because we don't really freaking know. But that, the timestamp of everything that went down and then that person leaving at 4:24 in the morning has always been kind of crazy to me. And then it was brought up to me again by somebody pretty close to the case. It was something that they were that this bothers me. I'm yeah, I didn't really think about it before, but you're right. You're right. Yeah, well, see, we don't really know about which door it was, what was actually left open and what wasn't, because we've been told 2 different stories about the doors. We've been told that the front door by a neighbor, the very, very, very first thing that we were told was that around 8:45 in the morning, a neighbor claimed that the front door was wide open, that they were out taking their dog out for a walk, and the front door was wide ass open, 8:45. And then we heard from Christy the same time she's telling us the story about Hunter Johnson having to be the big strong man to come over and bust the door open, which obviously wasn't the case. They were told that it was the back slider that was open. But then again, the photos of the house have like those bar stools sort of like being used to like keep the sliders like locked shut. So I don't freaking know, bro. Like I am it's everywhere. It's every freaking where. It's too much. And everything that we thought that we knew. Oh, I thought I had a banner on here. Everything that we thought that we knew, we don't know. And it's just getting more confusing. It's getting a lot more confusing because none of this makes any sense. Oh God, hold on. Okay. That should have been on there already. See, I thought so too. I thought the cops put the bar stool there too, but I wasn't sure because a lot of people said that it was there beforehand. I thought the cops put it there. So was it actually not working? Oh, they took the handle. Yeah, that makes sense. Ex-student said she saw Dylan with Clint in a party neighbor garden with Emma and Dee. Oh, I don't know. There's probably a lot of people saying a lot of things. I just find it interesting too that they haven't told us like where she really was. Like we know all the alcohol she was consuming, and we know that they were all together at one point at the apartments next door. That's where the picture came from. But we don't know like where she was, who she was really with, or who was at the house. Because I don't think anybody's really asked that question either. Like, who could have been like at the house whenever everybody was home? Like, whenever the girls got home, what other friends could have possibly been over there? There's no telling. Just so insane. Okay. Okay, let's see where we were. Okay. Most of Dylan's texts to Bethany satisfy this exception. She first texts that no one is answering, which describes the results of her calls to the other roommates just moments before. She also states that she is immediately feeling confused, freaked out, scared. Okay, we read that part. She further describes the intruder she saw, i.e., wearing a ski mask or something over his forehead and mouth. She also relays that her phone is going to die. Thus, these statements are all likely admissible as present sense impressions. In addition, the events are sufficiently startling to both Dylan and Bethany for purposes of the excited utterance exception. Dylan and Bethany are young female college students and the self-described scaredy cats of the house. What? This tells me right here that he definitely has heard all their interviews, that he's read other reports, because no one said that. No one has said that. He's getting that from everything else. Anyway, they were awoken from sleep after a night of drinking, with Dylan reporting that she heard noises and saw a masked intruder in her home. Broski. 351 adding a phone contact. What you mean? Who put a 1 in the chat if you know anyone who could be so passed out in 8 minutes that they're startled awake 8 minutes, literally 8 minutes after they have shut their eyes and closed their phone from being so cognitive that they could add a phone contact. Why is he lying? He is forever skipping over the fact that she was awake and doing something that takes multiple steps. It's not like you can just scan something. You have to do multiple little button press thingies on your screen to add a contact to your phone. I'm tired of this dude. Hitler, I'm so tired of you, bro. Full of shit. Maybe maybe Bethany, because we're not seeing that Bethany was doing anything right before that. Like, it maybe at 2:10, they decided not to get anything or whatever it was. They decided to go ahead and go to bed. Maybe Bethany went down into her little cave and maybe went to sleep. And then I guess the phone call from Dylan maybe woke her up. Let's just say that. Let's give them that. Okay. Dylan, 3:51. Was able to hear noises, sure, but the PCA puts it as something light, like nails from a dog being on the ground from hopping around, from playing around, like walking around, playing around, whatever. That's not very loud. And then again, we also now she's supposed to have been trying to go to sleep while also listening to people upstairs singing and playing music. But there's music and singing going on, but then noises 8 minutes after she closes her eyes after adding a contact to her phone startle her awake. Do y'all not see how stupid this sounds? This is so dumb. How are you getting startled awake by noises whenever you're hearing karaoke going on upstairs? What you mean? I cannot roll my eyes any farther back in the back of my brain. I'm so tired of this man. Man, it must be nice to be ignorant and rich, because you got to be getting just paid to be a liar. How do you sleep at night? How? Unbelievable. Unbelievable. They were awoken from sleep after a night of drinking, with Dylan reporting that she heard noises and saw a masked intruder in their home. None of the other roommates were responding to their calls and text, further indicating something was amiss. Oh, something was amiss. It would be potentially terrifying for anyone, including these young women. Then why didn't they call 911? To argue that they would have run out of the house or called someone else for help had they been really startled, unempathetically ignores these circumstances. This dude is a coddler. Oh my God. I'm going to throw up. I cannot believe this fool right now. He's babying them. This stupid loser is babying them. I want to puke. I feel nauseous. Ooh, Hitler, you make me sick. To argue that they would have run out of the house or called someone else for help had they been really startled, unempathetically ignores these circumstances and the trauma and confusion they were evidently experiencing, which likely offset logical thought. Oh, but Steve Goncalves said they thought that they might have been getting pranked. Oh, where's Ashton Kutcher? No, this is stupid. Hey, Heather. This is so dumb. I hate him. I hate him. Oh my God. I cannot believe him. There's an 8th footnote. Dare I read it? Defendant's argument also ignores the fact that Dylan indicated to Bethany that the intruder was leaving the house, in which case it is not surprising the girls did not want to run outside had the thought crossed their minds. I'm sorry, homie. When the frick did she say that? When the frick did she say that? Let's go back. Now, F all that. She never says a damn thing about him leaving the house. And even in the probable cause order, it literally says they're only, like, based off of experience and blah, 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 that he left, or the person left out the back slider based on the fact that Dylan is claiming, like, the direction the person was going whenever she fuzzily saw them out of her beer goggles. I cannot believe the lies. The lies. The lies. This is insane. I am flabbergasted. Not really, but wow. He is making shit up. He has done this in every single order. Like the one for the bushy eyebrows that's going to be coming out, he did a lot. He did a lot in that one too. I don't know if he put anything into the DNA one because I haven't read it yet, but I have to do that one tomorrow. He puts shit like this in there constantly. I cannot believe him. I cannot believe him. Okay, where was I? Oh, it was the footnote that pissed me off. I was like, why can I not see that? So he puts his bullshit down here. He puts his lie down here in a footnote. How is he ignoring the fact that Dylan indicated to Bethany that the person left the house whenever that's not a freaking fact? The defendant cannot ignore something that's not an actual thing, Hippler. Oh. Oh, he makes me so mad. Okay. Indeed, the girl's fear and confusion is evident in their words, with both questioning what was going on. Dylan stated she was freaked out, scared, and confused, and Bethany attempting to get them together quickly for safety. They were clearly under stress and attempting to make sense of a frightening situation. Okay, so you're making an excuse for why they didn't run out that goddamn front door, but you're still not making an excuse for why they didn't call 911. I cannot believe this judge right now. I cannot believe this judge right now. I am physically ill. I'm physically ill. Blech. I'm so mad. This isn't even funny. Like, I'm laughing because I'm angry. This dude sucks. Additionally, the time period that elapsed between what Dylan saw and her communications with Bethany about the same was a matter of minutes. The text message exchange lasts approximately 4 minutes, with the messages occurring in rapid succession. This timeline left no time for the reflection or fabrication, which is ultimately what IRE 8031 and 2 seek to protect against. Consequently, the court concludes that the assertive text messages within this 4-minute period are likely admissible as present sense impressions and or excited utterances, assuming the requisite foundation is provided at the time of trial. That's what I said, bro. He's been leading them since they got there. Especially when it came to like the tower thing with Jennings. He had to correct her. And then there was something else. She kept like going off. I think it was during the January sessions. Yeah, when she just randomly told us about how Dylan didn't recognize Bryan, willy-nilly just giving information out that nobody's talking about. She's a horrible attorney. Oh, I know. I'll be doing a review of it very soon. It'll probably be tomorrow, maybe. I have to catch up because I still have to do an update in the case for Megan Boss in Illinois. Her mom wrote me like an update letter that's like 3 pages, and she's supposed to be getting interviewed, or she might have been interviewed already. I need to catch up with her over on Facebook. I need to update on that one too. So yeah, I know. It needs to be in. The 911 call needs to be in, especially whenever they're telling us something that's not true. Like they're gaslighting the shit out of us. Like we don't hear Hunter calling Ethan and Xana's names on the 911 call and discovering them on the call. Like we have Jennings in court twice. Whenever we went over the stuff that happened on April 9th about the phone stuff, we went over this portion like twice, I believe. And she said this twice. And we were like, she's literally telling us the opposite timeline. We're hearing it happening. Like, how are they going to sit there and tell us that what we're hearing isn't what we're hearing? I'm just like, wow. Just wow. I'm just wow. Okay. Okay. Dylan's text to the victims. At 4:32, Dylan texts Kaylee, please answer. The state argues this text is admissible as a present sense impression and an excited utterance. Defendant does not directly address the text. However, the court finds it is more of a command or request than an assertion of fact. It is not a fact capable of being proved or false. Thus, it is not barred by IRE 801. And it says on the 9th footnote, even if it were an assertion, it would qualify as a present sense impression or an excited utterance. Dylan had just seen a masked man in her home minutes prior after hearing unusual noises, and none of her roommates other than Bethany are responding to her calls and texts. What were the unusual noises, though? Because we are hearing that she heard music and singing and Kaylee playing with a dog. All that sounds pretty freaking normal for that house. I'm just saying. So I don't know where he gets this portion from, because that's not technically true unless there's something that we're not being told, which is probably the case. Bethany, okay, none of her roommates other than Bethany are responding to her calls and text. Her fear is evident in the words she uses. Please answer. It is less of a request or assertion and more of a desperate plea made out of concern that something is wrong. Yet nobody called 911. He gets on my nerves, man. At 10:23, Dylan texts Madison asking, are you up? And approximately 1 hour later, Dylan texts Kaylee, are you up? The state argues the foregoing texts are not hearsay because they will not be introduced for the truth of the matter asserted. Alternatively, the state contends they are present sense impressions because they represent a consistency and a continuation of Dylan's text from the night prior. Defendant disputes that the exception applies, pointing out that Dylan had been awake and accessing social media before she sent the text, which is true. She was doing all kinds of things, but this judge wants to act like none of those things actually happened. He's literally trying to erase reality for real. Again, the court does not find these texts to be assertions. They are inquiries, not declarative statements. Even if they were assertions, however, if the state intends to admit the statements to establish a timeline of events, they are not hearsay because they are not offered to establish their truth. Therefore, they are not barred by IRE 801. Dylan's calls and texts to and from others. The state contends that the text between Dylan and her dad, the text from JM, which should be Xana, and the vandal alert are not hearsay because they will be offered simply to show a timeline for the morning and early afternoon. Well, we don't really give a damn about the vandal alert. No one gives a shit about the vandal alert. In addition, the state notes that the phone call from Dylan to EA, which is Emily, is not a statement and therefore not hearsay. The court agrees and will allow the evidence for purposes of a timeline if the requisite foundation is laid. And we have the 10th footnote that says the state does not address the content of the phone call. However, the court finds it likely qualifies as a present sense impression. Dylan testified that she asked Emily to come over and check the house because she was scared. She is describing her fear at the time she is experiencing it. Beyond that, the specifics of what was said regarding what Dylan saw hours prior will have to be analyzed at the time of trial. You're scared the whole 8 hours. You just stayed scared the whole time, editing photos and videos and being on social media and doing who knows what. This guy for real. This guy is for real. This guy is so for real. Yeah, because, they did a really good job hiding that fact from us for a while, right? The whole Hunter putting his DNA on a knife thing. Wild. This is insane. Okay. The court agrees and will allow the evidence for purposes of a timeline if the requisite foundation is laid. And look, I want all of this in here. Okay. Nothing they're saying points to Kohberger. None of it. But the jury needs to hear every bit of this so they can see the bullshit. There's no reason for them not to know every little bit of that 8-hour time frame. And if I was on the jury, if I wasn't me, okay, and I didn't know about this case, and I knew that there was an 8-hour delay and there was text messages of fear at 4 something in the morning, and then messages of fear 8 hours later at noon, and all these things happening in between, I wouldn't be able to give an answer on a damn thing until I knew everything that was done in that 8-hour time frame. And if I felt like there was a gap missing with no answers, you're not getting an answer from me until I get that gap filled in. I swear they don't have a Delphi jury, because this is not going to go very well at all. They've got to have people in there with the brain, or this isn't going to work. But remember, Steve Goncalves has made comments about how they really want like stupid people. That's how that's what they're alluding to. They want dumb people on the jury. Because people with brains like us are going to ask questions. People that are dumb are going to believe it because it sounds so complicated. How could it not be true? Oh, man. Okay. Verbal communications between Bethany and Dylan. The state contends that it intends to ask Dylan and Bethany at trial about statements they made to each other on November 13th, 2022. It argues the testimony will likely replicate that provided by these witnesses at the grand jury proceeding. The state contends they are admissible under the present sense impression and or excited utterance exceptions. Defendant does not directly address the argument, which means that they can go in there and be like, oh yeah, I said this and she said this and I said that and that whatever, and it can be a lie. They've had 3 years to know it. They've had 3 years. To the extent Dylan and Bethany seek to testify about the content of the calls, text, and conversations about what they perceived during the 4:30 time frame, they could be potentially admissible under the exception cited by the state. However, the state must establish the foundational requirements for such proffered statements. The grand jury testimony does not appear to include any conversations between them after the 4:19 a.m. to 4:37 a.m. time frame, and the state has not pointed any out. Thus, to the extent they testify to oral conversations they had after they woke up the next morning, what the frick do you mean? Even whenever it comes to Bethany, she stops at 4:30 something and starts back up at 7:30. You're not sleeping for only 3 hours and then you're up doing all kinds of crazy stuff. I don't care that you're in college and you can spring back up like it's nothing. You've been up drinking and doing crazy shit. You're not just out for 3 hours, especially after your adrenaline was just pumping because some crazy shit was going on that you and your roommate were just freaking out about. I'm sorry, but an adrenaline drop sleep, you're out for like 12 hours. Ain't nobody waking you up. So, no, this whole thing about them sleeping, this a-hole just keeps on with this lie. This is insane. The court will reserve ruling and consider any hearsay objections at that time. I cannot stand this man. 911 call. The state contends that the entirety of the 911 call should be admitted because the statements therein are either non-hearsay, i.e. not admitted for the truth of the matter asserted, or they are accepted from the hearsay rule as present sense impressions and or excited utterances. Defendant generally objects to its admission, but takes particular issue with 3 statements within the call. The court finds defendant's objection to these specific 3 statements well placed, but will allow the balance of the call because the statements are either not assertions, not admitted for their truth, and or they are accepted from the rule. I don't know if that's the way that... Yeah, that's not the right word. Accepted from the rule as set forth in Exhibit B. And there is an 11th footnote that says, portions of the call may qualify under IRE 8034, statements for purposes of medical treatment or diagnosis. Because the parties have not argued this exception applies, the court will reserve ruling on its pending a foundation being laid and an opportunity to brief and argue its applicability. What? Medical treatment or diagnosis on the 911 call? What about Xana not breathing? That's dumb. If the defense wants to argue the 911 call, that's honestly just a stupid waste of time fight. It just put the 911 call in and leave it alone. Nothing in it points to anyone. Like, at all. It makes the 2 roommates look worse because of everything that we know that led up to that 911 call. But when it comes to the current suspect, there's nothing in the 911 call that points to him. So I honestly don't even understand why they're arguing the 911 call. I feel like they would have done a lot better. I mean, I'm glad that they did. Maybe they did, honestly. Maybe they only argued it because they knew that the information would end up public and that the public would be able to see the information between the two girls if they argued it. But in reality, it's a useless fight for them. Like for Bryan, it's a useless fight because it doesn't point to him or anyone else. It's just a crazy jumble of questions. But it doesn't really point to anything. So again, maybe it was just a tactic to get the information in the public face. Maybe. Because it being there doesn't do anything here nor there. Initial statements. The 911 call begins with Bethany telling dispatch, something is happening, something's happened in our house, and we don't know what. This statement falls squarely within the present sense impression exception, given that BF was experiencing concern that something was wrong with their roommates, and Hunter Johnson had just instructed her to call 911 after walking through the house. Therefore, Bethany attempts to provide dispatch with the address of the house before an unidentified female speaker takes the phone and provides the address and Bethany's phone number. This exchange is not offered for the truth of the matter asserted and therefore not barred by hearsay rule. Again, unknown female. Not Emily. Hey, bro. So not Emily. Again. I mean, they had other neighbors. But who the frick could it have been? That's wild. Okay. Female. One of the roommates who's passed out and she was drunk last night and she's not waking up. The state argues this statement is a present sense impression because the female speaker is describing the scene around her. However, the defendant points out the roommate at issue in the statement is Xana. The only individuals who experienced/saw Xana unresponsive were Dylan, Bethany, and Hunter Johnson. So that's also proof at this point that Bethany did, at least in this time frame, clarify Bethany also saw Xana. Thus, defendant contends the exception does not apply because the female speaker never saw Xana unresponsive and thus lacks firsthand knowledge of the information contained in the statement. Yeah, they mentioned that in the hearing, and I agreed with that because she's just reiterating something she was told. It's not her knowledge of anything, it's third-party information. So, even though it's not direct firsthand knowledge, it's still just the 911 call. Like, it's still just pointless to argue it, in my opinion. The inquiry here turns on whether the event the female speaker is describing or explaining is that Xana is unresponsive, as defendant contends, or whether it is more generally the scene unfolding at the house, i.e., that her friend saw Xana unresponsive. The female speaker did not personally perceive the former, but she did personally perceive the latter. When the words themselves are considered, it is clear the event being described is that Xana is unresponsive, not that the speaker's friends saw Xana unresponsive. In other words, she is relaying to 911 what her friends observed and relayed to her. Her statement is, therefore, outside her present sense impression and thus the exception. 911 caller reporting that there's a cop beating the shit out of a guy right now was not a present sense impression because he was reporting what others in his house were seeing and describing to him. That's an example. Thus, the statement is not admissible under that exception. That was some case under Begmis or whatever the hell that is. That's not how he normally puts a citation. 1 second. Yeah. I mean, the neighbors. See, if it's an unknown female, like if it's some other neighbor, like some random person that just lived next door, what did they hear and or see to make them go outside to get on the phone if it wasn't Emily? That's new. So I'd love to know. Okay, female. Oh, and they saw some man in their house last night. Yeah. See that statement? It still doesn't point to any person, like in particular. It doesn't point to Kohberger either. So I just the whole thing just needs to be in there. It's just all just kind of stupid. The state argues this statement is both a present sense impression and an excited utterance because it is in response to finding Xana unresponsive. Defendant responds that the statement references an event Dylan saw 8 hours prior to the 911 call and therefore is not contemporaneous. Defendant also points out that the female speaker does not have the personal knowledge and is simply repeating what she was told by others. The court agrees that the present sense impression exception does not apply to the statement because the speaker is recounting what someone else perceived. Additionally, there is no contemporaneity since she is describing an event that occurred hours earlier. The excited utterance exception does not apply here. Instructive here is State versus Fox, where to Idaho Supreme Court considered whether the excited utterance exception applied to a 911 call made by a man after he found a woman screaming for help for her friend, whom she said had just been pistol whipped by a man who fled the scene. Jeez. The 911 caller had not seen what happened, but relayed to dispatch what the victims told him about the incident. The court held that the district court erred by admitting the 911 caller's statements to dispatch as excited utterances because the caller's voice was calm and he had not experienced a startling event or condition. And there's a 12th footnote. By contrast, in State versus Powley, the Idaho Court of Appeals found the exception applied to a 911 call made by the victim of a battery immediately after it happened, noting the tone of her voice on the audio recording showed that she was still under the stress of excitement caused by the altercation. Okay, yeah. Here, likewise, the audio of the 911 call does not indicate that the speaker's normal reflective thought processes were rendered inoperative. Her voice sounds calm relative to BF's, to Bethany's, and Dylan's. Although a slight nervousness can be detected in her voice, she's not audibly crying or breathing heavily. In fact, the speaker took over speaking to dispatch because she was more composed than Bethany, who initiated the call. Further, the speaker did not personally see Xana unresponsive, nor did she see the man allegedly in the house. She is simply repeating what others told her, so the statement does not provide insight into her own thought processes. Consequently, the statement must be redacted. Well, and that's interesting too. That's interesting. But the statement about seeing someone in the house last night is going to be redacted. How can the judge Jesus. How can the judge deem Dylan a credible witness, but then allow the statement that she then said to someone else who's then saying it on the phone? Like, how are you going to take the statement made by your credible witness out of the 911 call whenever it's retold by someone else? If I'm saying that right. I mean, I don't understand. I just don't understand the ridiculousness that's happening here. Oh, well, thank you for joining, Lisa Wilson. Welcome, welcome. Thank you for the $5. Chris. Let's not forget they wanted us to believe last fall the cops found K and M sometime into their investigation and not right away. Yeah, that's true too. We've been basically led to believe that when they got there, they weren't even told that the other girls were even in the house until, like, the cops asked, does anyone else live in the home? Or is anyone else in the house? Does anyone else live here? Normal questions. And then all of a sudden it was like, oh yeah, Maddie and Kaylee upstairs. And that was a whole other thing that led us to believe that there would have been a reason why Dylan and Bethany didn't go upstairs to get help from them, didn't attempt to go and check on them. Like, you've got two people both collectively making the decision to just go on about their lives and ignore the fact that something's going down, and then call other people over to then be the ones to discover the scene. Put the heavy burden on someone else. That's insane. It's actually insane. Exactly. She's not sure she even saw an actual face. Oh, hold on a second. These boys in their freaking games. Okay. Yeah. First thing I saw. Gonna be lots of lying on the stand. Lots of it. Lots of it. These people are lying. The judge is literally telling the state and the defense to get together so that they can construct the lie that this new guy that we've never heard of before, Brent Payne, is going to get on the stand and tell us all about. He's got the detectives' names wrong. He's got all kinds of typos and wrong words in his sentences. He got Maddie's last name wrong. This dude is a menace. This dude is a menace. Insane. I cannot believe this dude. I can just not believe this guy. Okay. Okay, I know some people probably like agree that it should be redacted. I just feel like because it's not specific, it's not pointing to anybody, it's not pointing to the defendant, it's just something that she's being told. I think it should definitely be admitted, the entire thing, because in my opinion, it shows that it's an afterthought. That it's not something that they're too worried about. It's just they're more concerned about the fact that they think that somebody is basically on the ground, unresponsive and unconscious from like alcohol poisoning. They're more concerned about that being the story, and the person is just a afterthought, which again leads to you're not seeing blood anywhere. You're not seeing blood because you wouldn't be acting that way. That would not be your reaction if you were seeing blood. The whole thing is just dumb. This whole thing is just insane. Okay. Dylan attempts to explain events. You mean Dylan attempts to set the narrative and you're just going to allow her? Sure. After the female speaker cedes the phone to Dylan, Dylan identifies herself and asks if she can tell dispatch what happened. Dispatch responds by asking what is going on and if someone is passed out. This exchange will not be offered for the truth of the matter asserted and therefore is not hearsay. Just a remembrance. Do you remember we were told somebody was like passed out on the lawn? You remember that? And we haven't heard that in any of this new stuff of proof of anything. But I remember going back whenever we first got this information and listening to some old interviews. And I believe there was even one, like I'm seeing it in my head. I could be wrong, but I'm seeing this in my brain and I'm like hearing it. Steve Goncalves even reiterated the fact that one of the roommates had passed out outside. It was like one of the very first interviews. But we haven't heard that in any of this either. So it's interesting that it was repeated by certain people and it hasn't been proven. But, that's kind of constant for that. But, I'll digress on that until tomorrow at least. Okay. However, Dylan then states, I don't really know, but pretty much at 4 a.m., the state argues this statement is a present sense impression and or an excited utterance because Dylan is trying to explain to the dispatcher what she saw while under the current excitement of realizing that her roommate is not waking up and something could be wrong in the house. Defendant disagrees, noting the event Dylan begins to describe what occurred 8 hours prior. He further argues it is not an excited utterance because she and Bethany had several hours to reflect on what she had seen and experienced at 4 a.m. Yeah, and to figure out the lie they were going to tell. Defendant is correct that the statement does not qualify as a present sense impression. While Dylan personally perceived the event she is beginning to describe, the contemporaneity, I said it how I said it, aspect is missing. She is attempting to narrate an event she saw 8 hours earlier. The excited utterance exception does not apply either. While Dylan is no doubt under the stress of excitement caused by realizing Xana is unresponsive, she saw that 8 hours before this and left her there and just went and created videos and photos and all kinds of things while knowing her roommate was on the ground. The judge seems to not give a shit about any of that, which is insane to me. Her reflective thought processing appears intact. Oh, does it? I don't know. It seems kind of broken to me. She is starting to draw connections between Xana being unresponsive and what she saw and heard 8 hours prior, something she has had time to reflect upon. She does not launch spontaneously into what she saw at 4 a.m. Rather, she asks the dispatcher if she can explain what she saw. Based on this exchange, it is clear her powers of reflection are quite active, thus obviating the purpose behind the exception. The statement is, therefore, not admissible and must be redacted. You see what I mean? This is like 180 behavior. He's deeming everything about her completely credible, but then removing her statements technically from the 911 call. This is some back asswards behavior. I'm very confuzzled about the way that these people behave. Insane. Okay, statements regarding Xana. Dispatch then instructs Dylan to find out if someone is passed out. Dylan appears to make statements to bystanders that they have to go check if Xana is passed out. This is not offered by the state for the truth of the matter and therefore not hearsay. Dylan then states that Xana is not waking up. Hunter is heard stating Xana in the background. These are squarely present sense impressions because they are describing what the speakers are seeing. So how are you going to sit there and tell us that this is the reason why the 911 call was made, but then tell us that you can hear this too? Like you're admitting to us that you're lying to us. What is happening? This is insane. Why is this life? Why is this judge just allowed to do these things and keep his... If I behaved this way at my job, I would have been fired. Wow. This guy is something else. Wow. In the same document at that, man, I'm just like thinking of all the things that he has said over these past few orders. Bro, my brain is going. Like I'm seeing like different sentences of different things that he has said and like hearing my own reactions to how I reacted in my own brain whenever I read the shit that he was spewing. This guy is insane. Good night, Michelle. Sup, fake Maori. This is just insane. This is insane. She's so credible. Everything that she said and is going to say on the stand because she's the only one that saw the intruder. She's such a credible witness, but I'm going to remove everything about everything that she said in the 911 call out. the most redundantly hypocritical, contradictorial bullshit. I don't understand. I need to create a word for this. This is a whole new level of a million different things. It needs a new word. It'll come to me eventually. This is just absolutely insane. Okay. These are squarely present sense impressions because they are describing what the speakers are seeing. There's a 13th footnote. In addition, the statement that Xana is not waking up is potentially admissible under IRE 8034. Miss me with the bullshit. Just put the whole damn call in. This is so dumb. Dylan then responds to dispatch's inquiry about Xana's age. Again, not offered for the truth of the matter asserted, before Hunter takes the phone and confirms that Xana is not breathing. This is also a present sense impression and also likely falls within IRE 8034. Now, there is a portion of the call with Hunter where they kind of like, you can still hear the stuff going on in the background because they've got the dispatch and the open call stuff in. So it sounds the same way it sounded whenever they were giving Bethany's phone number and they like bleeped, like, you know, got rid of the audio on the 911 call end, but left the dispatch open. That happens after Hunter's on the phone too. So I feel like he has to be describing something that for some reason they don't want the public to hear, and it's probably really graphic, but there's definitely a few seconds of that sort of silence on that end. So I'm wondering if it's in that portion that something about blood is finally said, because that's the one thing that's missing out of all of this. Is that they're not seeing any blood. Or at least they're not saying that they're seeing any blood. Which, how do you not? Yes. Hitler critical. I really want to replace those P's with some T's sometimes. This guy is insane. This guy is insane. He's absolutely wild. He's just saying all kind of crazy shit. Okay. Statements after law enforcement arrived. Around the time Hunter confirmed to dispatch that Xana was not breathing, law enforcement had arrived on scene. Hunter can be heard telling Dylan, "I need you to talk to them. I can't talk to them. I need you to talk to them." The court finds this admissible as either a present sense impression or excited utterance. Hunter had just discovered Xana's body moments before. Okay, but then you just told us earlier in this document that he grabbed the knife out the kitchen, got a glimpse of her freaking body, and then the 911 call was made. While now telling us that we were right in the fact that y'all have been gaslighting the shit out of us the entire time. How does this guy write this stuff and not see that it's screwed up and doesn't make any sense and it's a bold-faced? Is it bold-faced? You know, I actually looked that up. You can say both. You can use bold-faced or bald-faced. I don't know which one I like better. Weird sidetrack. Anyway, I don't know how he can get away with just like lying like this. And there's no way that he doesn't realize it because he knows what he's doing. This is insane. Like, this is like giving me PTSD because my last relationship was such lies, just a bed of lies. And like, this is just lies, like to my face. It's like the blatant to your face, look you in the eyes and lie to you to your face lie. That's the PTSD I'm getting right now. Like, this is ridiculous. I cannot believe that this is just like happening and like millions of people are watching it happen. And it's still happening. This is insane. He is operating under the stress of his discovery and attempting to answer dispatch's questions. His statements describe his inability to speak to law enforcement at that moment and therefore are admissible. At that point, Dylan took the phone again and dispatch instructed her to get a defibrillator if one was available. I'm sorry, but that was just weird. I've never, ever heard a 911 call say that to somebody before. Dylan asked dispatch to repeat the question and stated, "There's a police here right now." After dispatch repeated the question, Dylan indicated they did not have a defibrillator and asked the responding officer if he did. The officer responded affirmatively, after which dispatch indicated she was going to let the officer take over and ended the call. To the extent the state seeks to admit the statements by Dylan for their truth, they qualify as present sense impressions, as Dylan is explaining the events as they are happening. They also are likely admissible under IRE 8034 insofar as they regard the defibrillator. Finally, many of the statements are not assertions and thus not hearsay. Well, the defibrillator part is just odd. It's just odd. Like, I've listened to a lot of 911 calls, and I've never, ever, ever heard anyone ask somebody that is calling because somebody else needs medical attention if they have a defibrillator. That's not something that a normal layperson just has, like, hanging around their house. So that's just an odd-ass question to ask. Crying, breathing, heaving is non-hearsay. Apart from the statements, the state also moves for admission of the audible crying, breathing, and heaving made by the 911 callers. Defendant does not address the argument, and the court finds it well placed. While assertive conduct can qualify as hearsay, non-assertive conduct does not. Then it's just, I don't know, I guess this is some sort of book. Some new edition from 2024 that they're citing. Person's nonverbal emotional reaction does not normally qualify as an assertion under Rule 801A because it is not intended to communicate information. There is no indication in the 911 call the speakers are intending to make an assertion through their crying and heavy breathing. It is clearly an involuntary emotional response to the circumstances. Further, it is relevant to show the stress and emotional impact the girls are under, which puts the call into context. Thus, it is admissible. He believes them. Well, I mean, a lot of people believe them. See, that's what I expected to hear. I expected start CPR. Do you know how to do CPR? Let me walk you through CPR until the police get there. That's what I'm expecting to hear. The thing about a freaking defibrillator is weird. This is insane. Insane. Okay. A transcript of the 911 call will be allowed as demonstrative evidence, as it should. As they are listening to the 911 call, they should have a transcript to look at. That makes sense. If they didn't, that would feel like something was wrong and something wasn't being done correctly. So, yeah. The final issue is whether to allow the jury to view the official transcript of the 911 call while listening to the call. Defendant contends it would be cumulative and asks that either the call or transcript be allowed, but not both, which is kind of stupid. It's kind of dumb. You should let them listen to the 911 call by itself and then give them the transcript as well. Like, there's no reason to not do that, especially since the transcript is the defense's transcript. Like, it's certified, all the things. The defense is going to be able to use their own exhibit for it. So I just don't see the reason why this is an argument. It just seems like one of those things they shouldn't be fighting about. The court views this issue as essentially a request for use of the transcript as a demonstrative aid. A demonstrative exhibit is relevant if it supplements the testimony of witnesses or assists the jury in obtaining a better understanding of facts in issue. Transcripts are widely used as demonstrative aids to help the jury understand the contents of audio recordings. When used in this way, courts will typically instruct the jury that the transcript is not evidence independent of the audio recording, and if the jury determines that the transcript is incorrect, it should disregard it to that extent and rely on its own interpretation of the audio recording. In addition, the transcript must be authenticated by showing that it fully and accurately complies with the audio recording, and we have a 14th footnote. This may well require the transcriptionist to testify that he or she accurately transcribed the call. And it would be the person that the defense had do it. Again, this background, the court will permit a transcript of the 911 call to be used as a demonstrative aid, assuming the proper foundation for 911 call is established and the transcript is properly authenticated. And we have 15. Rather than passing out individual copies of the transcript to each juror, it may be best to time the audio with the text of the transcript and play that for the jury with the closed captioning. Otherwise, there is a concern the jury will read ahead or focus too much on one portion of the transcript and not another. However, the actual audio exhibit without the captioning is the one that will go back to the jury. Yeah, give them both. I mean, I don't see the problem with that. I don't see the problem with that at all. Order. Based on the foregoing, the state's motion in limine regarding text messages and testimony is granted in part and reserved in part. The state's motion in limine regarding the 911 call is granted in part, denied in part, and reserved in part. Yeah, he did it in, sections. I don't feel like this, I skimmed through this earlier. I didn't see anything else different. What I'll most likely do is pull up the old ones, maybe. Not on the live, but myself, and see if there's anything different. I don't feel like there is. We can go through them real quick, though. So, 210, Dylan to see the freaking Uber driver. Why do you do this to me? I don't know why he put this in here like this. 210, Dylan to Uber driver inquiring if he was driving. 213, Eric Gower texts her back confirming that he was. 253, Madison Mogen calls Bethany. And you notice that he's not putting the portion in here where they're calling Jack. For some reason, they just chose not to, I guess. But how do you just have this portion right here about Dylan creating a new contact at 3:51 and pretend like she's asleep at 4 o'clock in the morning? Such bullshit. 419, Bethany calls Dylan for 23 seconds. 420, Dylan calls Xana. 420, Dylan calls Kaylee. 420, Dylan calls Bethany. 421, Bethany calls Dana. 421, Dylan calls Maddie. 422, Bethany calls Ethan. 422, Dylan to Bethany. No one's answering. 422, Dylan to Bethany. I'm really confused right now. 422, Dylan to Kaylee. Kaylee. 422, Dylan to Kaylee. What's going on? 423, Bethany. Outgoing message on Snapchat, but doesn't say to who. Or is that who they said that they... No, it was Dylan on Snapchat that she said that she got a hold or tried to get a hold of Ethan. That could be wrong, but earlier in the document they mentioned the Snapchat and them reaching out to somebody on that through Snapchat. 423, Bethany to Dylan. Yeah, dude, WTF. 423, Bethany to Dylan. Xana was wearing all black. 423, Dylan to Bethany. I'm freaking out right now. 423, Dylan to Bethany. No, it's like a ski mask almost. 423, Bethany to Dylan. Shut the F up. 423, Bethany to Dylan. Actually. 423, Dylan to Bethany, like he had something over his head and mouth. Is it the same thing? Where's this coming from? Why is there a 1? Oh, okay, so this is like the examples, I guess. Oh, no, it's the phone calls. Not hearsay, not an assertion. Well, I mean, duh, it just shows they had a phone call together. Okay, whatever. 424, Dylan to Bethany. Bethany, I'm not kidding. I'm so freaked out. 424, Bethany to Dylan. So am I. 424, Dylan to Bethany. Phone is going to die. F. 424, Bethany to Dylan. Come to my room. Run down here. 424, Dylan calls Ethan. 424, Dylan to Bethany. I'm scared though. 425, Bethany to Dylan. Yeah, I know, but it's better than being alone. 427, Dylan, an outgoing call. How come I don't put who it is right here? 427, Dylan, outgoing message. 427, Dylan, outgoing message, both on Snapchat. 427, Dylan calls Kaylee. 428, Dylan calls Xana. 429, Bethany calls Maddie. 430, Bethany calls Maddie. 430, Bethany calls Maddie. 431, Bethany calls Kaylee. No, Kaylee twice at 430 and 431. Okay. 432, Dylan texts Kaylee. Please answer. 434, Bethany accessed Snapchat. 4:37, Bethany accessed Instagram. Now they're jumping from 4:37 to 10 o'clock. And that's not, no. 7:30, Bethany is up doing whatever. And then by 8 o'clock in the morning, she's trying to contact her mom, her dad, some other unknown number. And then she has conversations with her parents. Like she calls their house too. The way that they have it, it's like mom, dad, and like home. So it's like mom's cell phone, dad's cell phone, and a home line possibly. They just skip all the way over that. That's insane to me. 10 a.m. to 10:23, Dylan accessed social media, messaged on Snapchat. 10:23, Dylan to Madison, are you up? 10:24 to 10:29, Dylan accessed social media, message on Snapchat. Oh, and he's like skipping over the fact that Bethany was taking photos at like 8 something in the morning too. Around the time that front door was wide open, you know? It's just wild how he can just omit things and it's not, you know, illegal. Insane. 11:39 to 11:40, Dylan and dad exchange text. 11:49, Bethany's phone call to Jenna. Okay, so yeah, this is it right here. So Bethany at 11:49 calls Jenna, and then Jenna then texts Dylan saying, bro, and then there's another text that says, do you guys need me to come and get you? So something was said to Jenna from Bethany about the situation. And even Jenna's response is not, do you need me to come wait for the cops with you? It's, do I need to come pick you up? And I don't understand why we need to know about the time that they got the vandal alert. Why do we need to know that? Why do we need to know that? I don't understand that. And this is just the 911 call transcript stuff. We don't need to go through it again. We'll read the footnotes, though. It says the transcript referenced herein is attached to the state's reply to defendant's objection to state's motion in limine regarding the 911 call from March 24th of 25. It is entitled Transcription of Audio File 911 Call and certified by the court reporter. So the court reporter is the one who did the transcript for the defense, I guess, yeah. For the statements by the 911 call operator that the court has indicated herein are not assertions. To the extent they can be construed as assertions, they are not being offered for the truth of the matter asserted and therefore not hearsay. See, the whole like female speaker thing is wild because it's supposed to be Emily. So I'm really wondering if it's really not Emily. Because EA's initials are in here. Okay, that's it. EA's initials are in here. So I just don't understand why he wouldn't just have EA on the call if it was her. So that tells me it might not be. It really might be some like rando outside that maybe heard something. Maybe it's even the neighbor. Wouldn't that be crazy if it was the neighbor who actually saw the door open at 8 something in the morning? How is it not illegal to skip over facts? That's what I'm saying. I don't understand. I don't get it. I really just do not understand it. I don't understand how he can pretend like Home Chick was just sleeping, passed out. No, you're adding a freaking contact to your phone. Takes multiple steps. So how blurry and screwed up can your eyes be if you're adding a contact? I mean, obviously she's not seeing straight regardless because she's texting all kinds of junky, wonky, janky, whatever. None of this. Yeah. Yeah. But why no mention of blood? Why no mention of blood? Thank you for the $10, Layla. Thank you for going through this with us. It's disgusting, this judge. I know. Like, what is going on with this guy? I'm just like floored. It pisses me all the way off. Yeah, at like 8:45-ish, somebody was out walking their dog and said that front door was wide open at like 8:45 in the morning. That was one of the very first things. I think the article that I found that mentioned it, I think, was like November 17th. Yeah, I can. I need to do the DNA one in a video. I need to do an update in the case for Megan Boss. And tomorrow is Friday, so I'll get both of those out tomorrow. And I don't know when the one for the bushy eyebrows will be approved, because if I get it to them tonight, it probably won't be approved until Monday. But I'll go ahead and I'll go live for one of the other ones, and the bushy eyebrow one will just come out late. But I have to do it with the one for Aura that way. So yeah, but no, there's a few more documents. Let me see which ones. So I did the make and model. I think I released that one. Was that this morning? This morning. I still need to go over the one for the touch and contact DNA. The bushy eyebrow one's done, but again, like I said, I need to like wait for the Aura guy. And then the neuropsychological and psychiatric evidence one, we need to go over that one too, where his very first line is basically saying that Bryan Kohberger was just diagnosed with autism. Making it, if you didn't know better reading it, you would feel as if like he's really pointing at it being like fake, which is bullshit. They mapped his brain. I don't see how you can fake that, but anyway. They have some stuff regarding like the witness list they've been turned in. Now we know that they had until I think the 21st of April to get the witness list in, and it wasn't until the witness lists were in that the judge was going to make, I guess, a more defined decision on the immediate families in the courtroom situation, especially when it came to Kohberger's family. When it came to the hearing, the judge mentioned there was nothing that he had seen that pointed to them being witnesses of any kind. And basically he was telling the state, like, if you're going to do anything, like, get it over with so that they can be in the courtroom, is basically how it went down, which is fair. Like, get it over with. Them testifying wouldn't surprise me because they're his parents. And if they went to the grand jury in Pennsylvania, I mean, yeah, it would make sense that they were going to testify. So that's not shocking. I don't know why people are like, it's really funny that the guilt, like the people that believe that he's guilty, like no matter what happens, they're not changing their mind. Like, you know, like the JLR type people, they act like the family getting on the stand is like meaningful. No, it's expected. It's normal. They should be on the stand. It makes freaking sense. Makes plenty of sense. So everything's just insane. I am just shocked that he can just lie about stuff. They've been like really trying to blue pill this for like a super long time. It's just wild. She was awake and doing things with her phone at 3:51. She was not asleep. She heard music and singing. Therefore, how are noises waking her up out of a dead sleep if she was just awake and there was music and singing happening? Because remember, one of the other first things that we heard is that she opened the door and yelled, "Shut the F up," like up the stairs. So how scared could she have been, and how intense could the situation have felt if there was music and singing and she felt confident enough to open the door and yell, "Shut the F up"? Just wild. Yeah, I'll go live over this over the weekend to go over one of the other ones, but we'll get them all done. We should be able to get them all done by Sunday. I don't know if they're going to drop anything else. Let me see. Because we have, this is the text message one, and then we have the autism one, and then the vague and undisclosed expert testimony. That's the one I'll probably go live to go over on Saturday. Probably not late, though. It'll probably be like during the daytime. Maybe we'll see what I feel like doing. I got to do a lot of shit outside this weekend. I don't see anything else on the case summary. The last thing that got posted was the vague and undisclosed expert testimony. So as long as nothing else drops, then we should be able to catch up on all the orders by this weekend, by Sunday. And see that whole "it's okay, I'm here to help you" thing. Like if I go back and I think about what I said about it possibly being Xana that Dylan saw, and that her timing is just off, and maybe she actually saw Xana wearing the all black clothes that we saw her in, maybe with something on her face, maybe a face mask because she was home and they were ordering food, and maybe she just had something covering her face, or shit, maybe her own hair. She had long, thick brown hair. Maybe the way that she had her hair up a little or whatever might have been covering portions of her face, and the thing that was being carried could have been the food. And maybe that "it's okay, I'm here to help you" thing, maybe something happened with the DoorDash and Xana almost dropped it and the person helped her, and the MM is actually a dude, and that's the voice that Dylan heard. I don't know. I don't know. I don't even know what to think anymore. And then it's crazy that you got a bunch of drunk girls saying that they want to go get more food, and the guy that's out driving that they contact is actually out driving, and they just decide to not get food. But then food is involved anyway, but the people that ordered the food weren't even home whenever the food conversation was happening, proving once again that the timeline that they gave us about Xana and Ethan has been wrong even more. How do they not have? Well, they have to have it by now. They have to. I believe she did. I really do believe she did. I know that we only heard that from Kara, because we went back and we listened to Jeff Kernodle's interviews at the Arizona interviews, and he mentions midnight in the conversation about how he wanted to get in his car and go over there, but Jasmine wouldn't let him because he'd been drinking, all these other things. Nothing about pizza is mentioned, but I did a video where I had gone in, I had found a video that Conspiracy had done that had Venmo transactions, and there was a transaction for like between Xana and Ethan, and then Domino's boxes are outside the house, and then in Linda Lane it looks like there's a car with that Domino's light like hump over like on the car, on the roof of the car that passes by, that Heather found when she was going through the Linda Lane footage. So it's a big possibility that they maybe really did, order some pizza around midnight, and that she maybe was home around midnight. But that party was just a few minutes of a walk. They could have just walked back to the party after that, maybe. Because we don't really know when the fight at the party happened. Like, we know what they tell us about what Bethany is apparently claiming whenever she says that she saw them there. But we don't know, like, the actual timing for this, like, so safe fight that happened. Like, it's a big possibility that they went to some party and then went home and maybe ate and then went to the frat party after that. Or maybe we're at the frat party, went home and ate pizza, then went back to the frat party and then came back later. I don't know why we don't have, like, why are we not allowed to know this? Yeah, that's interesting too, because Ethan's mom sure did say that. And now they're telling us in this document that at 2:00, whenever all the drunk girls were together talking about ordering food, Xana wasn't there. But still just like skips over it, doesn't even mention anything about what time they actually got home. See, and this balaclava masks, I don't even think that that's the mask that this person had on, because the way that it's described is like Dylan didn't know what kind of mask it was. And we've seen her with a pink one. We've seen photos of her friends and her. They all, like, a lot of them have this freaking mask. Okay. And the way that she is describing it whenever they're giving us pieces of her interview, she's talking about it like she doesn't know what it's called. So I don't think that's what it was. I don't. I think it's something different, or else she would have just said it. She wouldn't have had to have been fed the word. She'd have known. I don't think that's what it was. Yeah, and she's not even sure she saw a face. She saw like one eyebrow. One fuzzy, poofy, bushy eyebrow. Jeez. There's a little bit of truth in every lie, but I need to know what portions because none of this shit's adding up. This don't make no damn sense. I really feel like she was just like out of her mind staring at a wall. Maybe she saw Xana in all black at some point with the DoorDash food at one point. Maybe whenever she opened the door and was yelling at them to maybe turn down the music and not stop singing so loud. Maybe she saw Xana in all black getting her food and that's what was in her hands. And then she's so out of it that she's staring at her walls where her bushy eyebrow art is. And it's not like two eyeballs. It's an Uno eyeball with big eyebrow. So that correlates more to the story that she's telling. And then to sit there and say that she knows the person was white. She doesn't know how, she just knows. It's funny, and I say this in the bushy eyebrow video too, that people will like attack me in comments whenever we talked about that, or like if I say it in a video because it's just so extravagantly stupid of a statement, and they think I'm making it up. They think just because I like ask questions and don't really think that they've got their guy, that I'm just like making stuff up. And I'm like, bro, that came out of her face. That came out of this girl's mouth that you're protecting and that you're acting like I'm such a bad guy for asking questions about. That came out of her mouth. So if you're going to have an issue with that statement, go have an issue with Dylan because that's what she said. That's what she said. So it just sounds like she's letting her imagination do its thing as she's staring at her walls and all these different visions of all these things her fuzzy drunk ass was looking at melted together into some scenario that suddenly turned into a fireman holding a vacuum. How? I don't know. Yeah, this whole just that. And like I said, even if she couldn't get it together enough to do like a composite sketch, seeing his face would have triggered something. He has a very prominent nose. And again, Judge Hippler tried to bring up the big nose thing in the courtroom on the 9th. And then whenever you go and you read the document, nothing about a big nose was ever said by her. Literally at all. They're sitting there baiting. They're baiting things like the whole time. It's so gross. It's so gross. Well, she said something about a cross. And I know that people were talking about that a while back. The way that I've talked to my buddy about it, he might still be in here. He was in here earlier. I talked to my buddy and it almost sounds like paintball gun masks, I think is what he sent me. I was describing to him because he has like an arsenal. He knows all about this kind of stuff. And I was describing to him the way that it's like in my brain where she says how she saw a cross and what she's describing about the portions of the person's face that she saw and didn't see. And I'm thinking, okay, there's masks out there that have like pieces that go down like this at the nose and then have like the open portion this way. So that could be a cross. Like the design of the mask itself could be a cross. But then she drew something that just looked like a funky little Among Us toenail. So I don't know where the cross thing came from because there's nothing in her sketch that has a cross. So I don't know if the person like transcribed that incorrectly because that's another thing my buddy said. He was like, somebody might have put that and it meant like across the way and not like a cross. Or it could be like maybe they had a tattoo on their eye of a cross. I don't freaking know. Just all, trying to figure shit out because, nothing makes any sense. Just too much. It's just too much. But I just feel like if it was that balaclava or however you freaking say it, she would have known what that was because she owns one. A pretty pink one. So there's that. But I'm going to go ahead and get off of here, you guys. 25 pages in under 3 hours ain't too bad. Honestly. I can't believe some of this. I'm going to have to do like a video just like pointing out the things that this dude is lying about and just call him out in his own video at this point, because damn. What this guy's doing can't be legal. I'm just saying, it just can't be legal. I don't understand it. Oh, okay. Thank you so much for being here for this last minute. I know we're supposed to do lives every Thursday, but we didn't do it last week. And I'm a little behind in the orders, but I appreciate you guys so much for still being here and listening to me ramble on and get angry because this stuff is so stupid. Thank you so much for the super stickers and the super chats and the gifted memberships and the ones who joined themselves and all the support and all the love and all the awesomeness. You guys are great. Get some sleep because we've got some more orders to go through. Just so like, wow. My brain is going to be going off for like a while of everything this guy just lied about. Insane. All right, I'm going to play my little thingies and then I'm going to get out of here. Let me drop this one first. Please do not forget to leave a like on your way out and subscribe to the channel if you are not subscribed already. Okay, you guys. See y'all.